Testing. I'm doing some real basic shit today. By basic, I mean basic. What do I mean by basic? Certainly not the programming language. I mean basic. We're doing some basic shit. This shit gonna be basic. So I've lost my mind even further, and I've decided to start picking up some Rust. That's right. I'm chopping my dick off. Or at least that's what one of my friends used to say of anyone who ever fucked with Rust. Is that you've basically gone dickless. Which I think is funny. I remember when I first saw Rust, I think in like 2014. While I was working in corporate as an iOS developer, a bunch of other languages started popping up on the scene. Swift, Go, Rust, D, etc. And when you have that many different choices available to you coming out, and they're brand new, and you're already on the job, and you're already writing Objective C like most of your week, and you're like, I should probably learn some of these. I should probably try to get ahead of the game somehow. I took a look at each of them. And actually, I first began dabbling with Swift because as an iOS developer, I figured this is obviously the path forward for us. I better check it out. But at the time, the changes to the language are being made so rapidly that I could literally write a working like demo one day And the next day, the language is updated and it breaks my fucking code. And when I felt that, I said, okay, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for it to mature. Wait for these things to grow and get ahead and see where they're at later. That was like 11 years ago. What's happened since then? Well, a lot. I dabbled a little bit with Go, but not nearly to a point where I could say I really know anything about the language. I've written a couple. By I've written, I mean I vibe coded out some working programs using Go, but I can't pretend like that I understand the language, let alone like the syntax. And whoever thought that liking syntax had to be like something that matters. You don't have to like the syntax. You just have to be able to slap shit together. But it does feel better when the slapping of that shit together is pleasant, right? Like, I don't mean to use a sexual metaphor or anything like that, but for dude, it's kind of painful if it's all sticks and bones versus, you don't want so much cushion that you're unable to do any pushing. You want somewhere in between there, right? You want a little bit of safety and security, but you also like don't want so much that you have no freedom. I think that makes sense. So, why did these languages come out to begin with? Well, for one, Heartbleed happened and people began shitting a brick. They're like, oh my fucking god. If Heartbleed was this bad, how bad is the state of the internet? Like out of like the space of all software that existed at the time, how much of it had potential memory corruption vulnerabilities? That's the real question. So dude be like chilling and shit. Just you know what I'm saying? I keep clicking back and forth because I fucked up and lost which window I had on this screen. Um, oh yeah, well let me just keep vibing. So like these languages initially came. Oh right, it was OBS. That's what I was looking for. These languages initially came out because there was a recognized need to try and prevent memory corruption errors or improper memory access or basically anything that causes the fucking seg fault. What is the seg fault? You ever get a blue screen in Windows? Well, there's a good chance that caused that blue screen, which I think they changed it recently. But one of the causes of those blue screens usually some sort of memory out of access violation, some attempt to access a null pointer, or something kind of in this domain. So it's very easy to write code in C that does it. Like if I want to intentionally do some fucked up shit right now, right? Like before I get back into all this stuff. Okay, let's start with the working program. Right, very straightforward, very straightforward. Now let's do some stupid shit. Here we're creating a variable 5 and an integer called x, and we are simply going to print it out. Now, I'm going to introduce the concept of the pointer. So let's say we've got a pointer to x called xp. So in other words, xp represents the memory address of wherever x is in our program space. Now, printing out x from this perspective and accessing it and manipulating it's pretty straightforward. So like oh, sorry, that's not just x, it's actually ampersand x, because that's the address. So okay, this is like 90% of pointers right here. So if you don't get pointers, maybe I can help make something click. So we've got a pointer called xp, and we're assigning it the address of x. In other languages like Rust and C++, oftentimes, depending on the context, because you'll see the ampersand in like a parentheses parameter, it represents a memory address here. Over there, it represents a reference. But there's something kind of like interrelated between the two concepts. So as you can see, the address of x is this big long thing here, and then we're able to take that pointer and then dereference it to get the original x. So how are we going to intentionally break this before I take Gracie out to pee? Let's create a second pointer, and it's going to be yp. We're going to set it to 0. What happens if you dereference a pointer that's pointing to 0. Look at that. Segmentation fault, as expected. So that's effectively like what these languages like Rust are trying to prevent. They want to prevent the programmer from doing something stupid like this because, as you can see, the program compiles and I'm able to do that, and that's total freedom. But when you're creating like a mission critical system and you ain't got time to deal with like fucking hunting down hundreds of these kinds of bugs in a giant fucking application, then perhaps it's time to reconsider re-engineering your architecture from the ground up in a way where the compiler basically disallows you from continuing. It won't even build the program if you've got shit like this in it. Because I had a revelation about the borrow checker the other day, and I was like, oh, wait, I think I understand the whole point now and the why. And maybe I can get over things and maybe I can start to write code in a way where we avoid these problems and thus take advantage of what Rust has to offer. Because I like C, I like C++, I like those styles. Rust is close enough to those languages that I should be able to pretty much vibe with it. Um, that said, there's a lot of tooling that I have to actually install first before I can really dive in and fully enjoy the process. I need to get my setup basically as fresh as I have my C++ and C setups. That involves installing a few things. I got this page open as a reference. This guy uses a different plugin manager in neovim than I do, so I'm going to basically have to like kind of convert this over to lazy. And I'll see about like using a combination of like Copilot as well as DeepSeek and Aider to help along with the process. So, name of the game today, get our neovim beefed up so we can do some proper rusting, because I actually do have a Raylib Rust thingy. Not here, but here. Boom. So when you actually run this shit, it's upside down at the moment. However, this is stubbed out off of someone else's template. They were lacking a render texture in between the window and the actual drawing process. I added that shit in successfully. So this is going to be kind of like ground zero for the new, freshly made Project RPG, because we have the ability to run this in the browser as well. So we can straight up write this whole fucking game in Rust using Raylib, and that sounds fucking amazing. Bevy just did not quite hit the same way as Raylib did, and I'm more than happy to fuck with Rust a little bit. Maybe Bevy wasn't the right way to go about this, but maybe Raylib plus Rust is. So with that said, I'm going to take my dog out the PP. We'll be right back. There she is. There's our queen. Good butt. What's happening, Dulce? You there, dude? I tried Bevy out for a little bit. I might even still have some code on my GitHub from when I did try it. Something about, like, without really being able to speak to specifically, um, I don't know if I like the workflow or not. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate it as a project, though, right? Like, just because I don't like or feel like continuing on with a particular framework doesn't mean that A, I won't come back to it later, or B, that I'm sufficiently like deep into it to really even make that judgment. But just because I may or may not be qualified to make the judgment doesn't mean that like it's necessarily going to be my preferred path and at the long run either. Um, and so a lot of times my initial decision on whether or not to use a framework is largely just off of feels and vibes. And I'm not sure that it was necessarily Bevy either. It could have been my perception of Rust at the time too. In fact, I was looking at Raylib's source code earlier today to understand how the init window function worked and what it actually did underneath the hood. Are you messing up my couch? That's what I say to her whenever she starts digging in there. You messing up my couch. Let me get my chats a little bit bigger here. Hold on a second. Uh, Here we go. Well, yeah, I mean, that's actually what drew me to it in the first place. I was in the beginning of really trying to wrap my mind around how entity component systems work to begin with. But honestly, even Bevy like makes a good effort to like kind of obfuscate like what's actually happening under the hood. So I found my like way it was I forget which video it was or if it was even a specific video, but there was a point where I had this light bulb moment and it was, oh my god, I understand. I totally understand how to implement components now and what a component even is. Because the way I think about entity component system is like if object oriented design is about depth in that every object has all of these properties attached to it, then by comparison, an entity component system has all of the properties for every object spread out across a number of different maps. Now, the big thing I did with the most recent iteration of my own hand rolled entity component system was using the C++ STL in order to um, dynamically create the data stores in such a way that we could contain everything inside one giant unordered map, and that unordered map would map to every other map that could possibly exist. So it would only ever create a submap if you actually call for it, right? Like the first like up until the point like you actually need a map, they don't exist. But as soon as you actually first call for one of those maps, so that way that's how like it can handle technically unlimited or infinite um submaps, but in practice it like lazily creates them like at the point when you actually try to say, does this map exist for names? And he's like, not yet. We'll create it now. So good times, good times. Um, word, word. Um, but one of the things that I'm gonna want to figure out, or I'm gonna need to figure out here in Rust, is how to build an equivalent dynamic component table, because there were a few things there that I could not figure out without a little bit of vibe coded help, which is fine. I'm totally okay with doing that so long as I learn along the way. Um, but before I can do any of that, I'm gonna have to fucking get some shit rolling here. Yeah, but you're doing everything in Lisp though. We ain't doing no Lisp over here. I would sooner write my own Lisp interpreter in Rust than I would actually use Lisp for actual development. But again, it's all about tooling, right? There is something to be said about like minimizing the startup time for like something. Like especially for like picking up and using something new. Because for a lot of people, myself included, sometimes the overhead of getting started with new technology or like technology that you're previously not using, like the swap over from Vim to neovim was like really dead easy. The hardest part about it for me was actually converting my Vim RC over into an init Lua. But once I did that, like everything was pretty straightforward because I was no longer operating in the outdated way. And we're going to do a little bit of that here in a minute. I'm going to have to bullshit my way through some of this. This guide says it's a thorough walkthrough, but it's not thorough. They're operating off the assumption that I'm using a particular neovim package manager. Um, they're using something called Packer. They set up NVim LSP config and Rust tools right next to each other. So I fucking hate these goddamn motherfucking. I'm gonna stop streaming on a certain site if I don't stop having to deal with this shit. I need to find a way to like auto ban these people. Fucking sick of them, man. These fucking bots coming into my chat. Good thing I took this chat off the fucking stream. God damn, that shit annoys me. All right, so what are we doing? We're trying to get this situation going over here. So like in this guide that I currently don't have on camera, but I showed it earlier. Um, I'm gonna have to set up something called Rust tools. I don't know that that's necessarily the configuration I'm gonna want, but gotta like the setup a little bit. Because in the guide they're using they create a hover action with space C space A, or sorry, leader, no, control space. So they're doing control space A for this one function. Code action group they define as leader CA, whereas in the browser it's just leader A. But effectively the code is the same. This is just a little bit more fleshed out. I believe I have a number of these other things. Yeah, a lot of that's already the same. Let's see where that got us so far. Okay, cool. It automatically installed Rust tools for us. Um, that's a good first step. Do I have tree sitter anymore? Or no, I'm not even using tree sitter. Um, think I converted it a while ago. Um, and did something break my indentation here? I thought it was like previously only two. Oh, wait. Okay, this is normal again. Oh yeah, I remember. I swapped to FZF. Oh yeah, I had no reason to do that. I just did it because I could. Was just trying shit, fucking around, finding out. Oh yeah, so it was previously Telescope. Um, I think it was Telescope. I wanted to like Lua. Um, I had a embedded Lua interpreter in the previous iteration of the game. I got it even working in the web. The problem is dealing with errors was a fucking nightmare. It would have been a lot more legwork to like get proper error reporting. And it could be useful. It's totally like the kind of thing where given the right setup, you could take advantage of the fact that you could have these scripts do stuff, especially if you have like a really complicated environment. But at the end of the day, I felt like all the management of like having to go back and forth between Lua and C, I was like, I might as well just do the whole thing in fucking C. I'm not sure I was getting the kind of benefit that I was hoping for at the end of the day. But that said, given the right like architectural thoughtfulness in building something, and you take in and you keep in mind to try and take advantage of these these embeddable scripting languages, there's definitely a viability. I mean, fuck, look at fucking Roblox. The first time I ever heard of Roblox was I had an opportunity for a new student. They were looking for someone to teach them Lua, specifically so they could work with Roblox. And I thought, well, shit, I wish I knew Roblox, but because I did not, I could not take that opportunity. The integration with C and Lua, like I actually learned a lot about how it could work at a certain level. Essentially, Lua has this state machine, and when you're interacting it from the C level, you can use C to call Lua functions, right, and like maintain some internal Lua state. But like let's say you call a function and it returns a value. So what happens is that Lua function gets ran in the Lua VM that's embedded in your system, and then it pushes the value returned by that function to the top of a stack. And then your C program, after you call that Lua function in C, you have to get the value at the top of the stack in order to pass it from the Lua VM into CLAN. So it was kind of interesting. All right, I don't want to get too distracted here. As y'all are very well aware by now, I'm highly distractible. I'm trying to actually get Rust LSP stuff working in my neovim. We're gonna do ours right here. Why are they commented out? Maybe it's like defaults. But having that first line comment out wouldn't make any sense though. Uh-oh. There we go. Hey, Rust Analyzer claims to be installed now. Oh, oops. Hey, what's up? How you doing? All that stuff looks fine. What happens if I type some new code? Nice, we get some autocomplete now. That's fucking sweet. Good one. Okay, good. We get some error feedback.
Feedback is information about an action or event that is sent back to the.
Are you fucking serious? How do I turn that shit off, man? Well, I've never heard the joke told that way. It's not exact. I wouldn't exactly call it classic. I think half of it was classic for sure. Um, Getting distracted by you. What the fuck are you doing? Because you're about 5 seconds away from, you know, if you don't let me get back to what I'm doing, maybe you should watch and learn rather than ask. I appreciate the interaction. However, this is highly distracting. Four, three, two. Okay. Problem chatter gone. Yeah, I think pretty soon I'm gonna just not participate on a certain site anymore because not only do I get like no viewership, but like the people who come into the chat are like sometimes not exactly the brightest cups of tea. I find the people on another site are a lot more intelligent and friendly and rational and actually engage. Um, but like stuff like that, like just bothers the fuck out of me for some reason. It's like, how are you gonna like? It's like a little kid watching their parents doing something, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And it's like to the trained eye, it's like anyone can see what I'm doing. Let's see. How do we get the autocomplete to work? Why does it keep recommending this arrow? See that's also there we go. But yeah, something about the co-pilot was fucking up there. This motherfucker on Twitch be like, before start to watch this stream, I need delete French language pack in Linux. Sudo rm-fr slash. First of all, I've never seen it done fr. I always do dash rf. Secondly, you forgot the dash dash no preserve root. Thirdly, for it to be a classic Linux joke, first of all, like the variant on the joke where he introduces the French language pack, that's so crazy. Like that's very European. Um, I don't know about you, but last I checked, this is fucking America. It's probably why he's trying to delete the French language pack. Then he calls it an S tier joke, but he misspells tier and it has to correct himself. And then he says, anyways, what you doing? That's when I'm like, okay, this guy's got to go. No dick riders in chat. You pull your own weight here. Okay, so the autocomplete does work. I guess the arrow for like when it's like determining a type. Oh, you can so you can just do like empty shit like that, huh? Okay, so you could actually, yeah, I forgot about this. So you could actually have like unused variables like this, and then it doesn't trigger the warning. Oh, and these are actually so it's actually like throwing the type. It's actually resolving the type of each of these like on in real time. That's pretty cool. Oh, that's pretty cool. So I imagine this is pretty good. This is like already a step above where I was at. There's gonna be a number of different things that I have to like literally rebuild from scratch. Okay, so we have our game state right here. One question I do have is whether or not we'll be able to easily move this structure definition outside of this file. Oh, yeah, and This one also has hot reloading, so it's basically like the same setup I had in C, except we're gonna be able to extend this to have the cool component system, and we're not gonna have to deal with any of this shit. Fuck yeah. I gotta get ready for my animals' dinner here in a minute. But we made it. We've made some progress here today. A little bit. You know, it's all about the little steps. we go. Nice. Man, this fucking sucks. Why did I ever do this? Oh my fucking god. Oh, fuck. Oh, no, that's expected, I think. Hmm. Well, it's not like a whole ass crate, is it? It's like a fucking. Oops. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I'm a retard here. You have to keep in mind. I don't know what that like from my perspective, state.rs is in the same fucking folder as game.rs. So, like, very similar to like Python imports, how would we refer to like in fucking C, it would just be like pound include and then the fucking file name in double quotes for like a header file. So I mean, there is it created a mod.rs. I don't know what the purpose of that is though. Public mod state, and then over here there's state. So I don't know like what the purpose of this. Right, that didn't work either. Oh, you have to what do mod state at the top? Well, that's curious. Um, that actually got us somewhere new. So now the error is coming from state.rs itself. Good work, Dulce. You are smarter than the LLM. Why you don't have a job doing this shit, I don't fucking know, dude. So that might actually do us something here. But actually, I think what's going to end up happening is that in state, we're going to have to use something different besides like prelude. We could actually be very explicit over here, I think. And we can declare individual using. Oh, it doesn't like this. Or no, that's old. I have to save it still. Okay, okay, okay. That's we're in the right direction. Okay, now we go. Now we're cooking. Now we're getting somewhere. Yes. Yes, we fucking did it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, let's go. Let's go. This is not a family friendly stream, by the way. That's how mad I get at this shit, dude. Like, I got problems. I see that you successfully fixed the module imports by removing the state module declaration from game mod rs since we don't need it for the structure. And then in game/game.rs, we changed the import to use a direct relative module path, mod state, and then use it. This works because you declared state as a direct submodule of game.rs using mod state. The compiler will look for state.rs in the same directory as game.rs. Then you can directly import state from this module. The improvements to my solution, actually, Dulce's solution. Shout out to Dulce, fucking OG. Simplified module hierarchy, no need for extra mod RS file. Direct and clear module relationship between game RS and state RS. Clean imports without complex path specifiers. You were absolutely right to be frustrated. Now, you have to keep in mind, too, that the LLMs have a bias for confirming or affirming your own biases. You have to take it with a grain of salt. So the solution turned out to be simpler than all the complex module paths I was trying. The Rust module system can be tricky, and sometimes direct approach is best. Your solution is clean or direct. I'll keep the structure in mind for future Rust module organization, declaring submodules directly in the parent file when they exist in the same directory. Thank you for showing me this correct implementation. Damn right, thank you. Thank Dulce. So, the problem with Dulce's name is that more people know Spanish than they know Latin. So whenever they hear the word dulce, if they're like me and live in Texas, probably thinking of the word sweet in Spanish. And so the first time they started chatting, I actually thought they were a chick. Hey, baby. You ready for some dinner? You ready for some dinner? We fixed a big problem. Big success. Oh, and we got a cat right here. Come here, come here. All right, y'all. We'll be right back. All right. Let me get this girl some din. Behave. Dual wielding right now. Got the cat in my right hand and the dog in my left. That was really annoying. I'm glad we figured it out though. That was a really good catch, I'll say. So all we have to do is like call mod before we actually do a use for like something that's like local in the same directory. Which is good because I like to break shit up into multiple files when I can. Something to good code organization. Imagine a lot of people just shove shit in one place and then it's like, that's okay. All right, let me get this girl some food. Very. Hey. Dindin. Oh, Dindin. Yeah, no, this ain't yours. Hey. Hmm. Yeah. All right, no, source. Source is negative. I don't like that. Oh, yeah. Right. I've always wanted to fuck with a voxel engine. Um, ever since Minecraft. Why not build a small little voxel engine? Why not something like in the direction of like Pico? I don't know if you're familiar with the Pico like virtual console thingy. Oh, interesting. The mouse tracking is way off. It's probably because it was like designed for a different. It's like correlating as if it's still like the original size. Um, and what I had to do in ooh, burpee. What I had to do in the previous well, in other experiments where I've done, conversions from one to another, I basically just have to divide in order to properly calculate the mouse position here. It's taking like my real mouse position and then translating it into the position where the ball is rendering on the screen. But like, because our render texture is actually much smaller than the size of the window. So the target's half the size of the width of the window, or the width and the height. Oh yeah. Oh, we gotta wrap the whole thing in parentheses. There we go. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. And now it does proper mouse tracking. Nice. Not that I'm gonna really need mouse tracking here. So let's close out Aider. Just for a moment. Oh, what? It shouldn't even show them if it's in the get ignore. Um, oh, whoops. There we go. There we go. What? Oh, it's fine. All right, now we have successfully merged over. So if I wanted to get like the game back to like a more default state here, why you chose to export draw text as underscore or like all lowercase, whereas like draw FPS is all uppercase? I don't fucking know. Although it is blocking the frame rate really high. The coloring is like hella broken here. Damn, why is this so like fucking nasty over here? Okay. I don't know if I have to actually like have those next to each other. Oh, oh, and it's like automatically pulling it back up there. Hmm. What happens if I go to build while it's in this state? It still builds, it still runs. We just get hit with some warnings. Um, so we can actually comment out. Uh, I would actually prefer to rewrite this part. Looks like we got rid of the warnings. Nice. I like that. Oh, it still says 144. We're not actually setting the FPS here. Where's the net window? There it is. Oh, no. They start target FPS right here. No, we want to do 60. There we go. Okay, that's more normal. Now, how do we do custom colors? Oh, man. What did I do wrong here? What do you mean expected semicolon? Bitch. See, how did I declare the rectangles? Oh, yeah, you gotta do rectangle equals rectangle. So here we did color equals color. Shut the fuck up. Oh, man, that's right. Every field has to be a named field. Okay. You got me. Now, here's a tricky question. How do we represent hexadecimal values? It's normally in in C, we would do 0x66 UD. How do we do this? Oh, sweet. You could just do the same thing. Let's do something a little bit more involved, right? Let's say I want to center the text on the screen and I want to center it perfectly. This is a couple steps. So first we have to measure the text. Interesting. I mean, that error went away, but here we're still getting a bunch of shit. Why does that work? Okay. So we are gonna be working with this shit, and I expect that we're gonna run into an actual issue with the borrow checker. So let's fucking go. Okay, so it's just bitching about usage right now, not a big deal. But the whole reason that we want to do this, not even make it mutable. Um, we need to call measure text. Yo, what's good? Wow, thank you. That's really nice of you to say. I appreciate that. It's comments like that that make it all worthwhile, man. I feel that, dude. Rock on. Appreciate that for real, for real. Is my setup clean? I guess. My apartment is not clean, I'll tell you that right now. I'm like maybe like 2 or 3 steps away from Asmon Gold status. Maybe one day I'll get the balls to show you how bad it is, but I'd rather it be cleaner before I do that. All right, what are we doing here? We are we're going to center this text. So instead of it being 5 and 5, like we're going to use the measure text in conjunction with the texture, or sorry, the target width and height in order to figure out where the center exactly should be at. So to center the X, what we're going to do is we're going to take target width divided by 2. And then we're also going to subtract M divided by 2. Similarly with the height, where you target height divided by 2 minus font size divided by 2. Now, why is it yelling about that shit? Mismatched types. Oh, shit. Oh, okay. Okay, this would be curious. Because do I know the front end? The front end of what? The back end? I know a little bit of front end, not nearly that much because I fucking hate doing it. It's the job that like everybody wants to pay for though. So fuck man. I just don't like the ecosystem that a lot of front end development sits in. My dude, I hate to break it to you. That's how you catch a ban. I don't really hate to break it to you. I enjoy breaking it to you. I don't appreciate people coming into my Twitch or my stream in general, advertising services. Like, you got to have a better organic marketing strategy than like going into other people's streams and advertising your services. That's just like it's something that you could bot. And honestly, if it's a bottable action, then there's something shady going on there. You know what I mean? I mistook what was a perceptibly at first nice comment for what actually turned out to be someone just trying to sell me their services. Imagine that shit. Okay, let's fix this shit. I didn't even know you could do pointers like this. Uh, is that? That's not gonna work, is it? But see, font size is already an I32, so this isn't anything different. Oh, yeah. Run with C string. Whoa. So the draw text function actually takes a string reference. Oh, and then you have this. Okay, so you have to use a wrapper. Man, that sucks. Oh, but they have a we can use this. We can use the so they have wrappers around certain things like this that take like C strings. So if we need to work with C strings, we're gonna end up having to do shit like this. So instead of doing this, we can do measure text lowercase. Um, what? What's going on here? Oh, it takes a U size. Ah, font size as U size. Hmm. Maybe we should make that I32 and then do font size as U size. Oh. Oh, I get it. I get it. I get it. Wait a second. This is supposed to return an integer. Nice. Oh, shit. Run with C string. Oh, fuck. Like, we're absolutely going to need to know how to measure text here because, like, positioning of UI elements on the screen is going to be really important. Damn, this is tough. I gotta piss. I gotta order some fucking drinks. We got some work to do here, man. Shit. All right, we're back. Where is run with C string defined? This presents us with a real issue. I'm almost thinking I'm gonna end up having to like write a fucking custom inline function here just so that I'll be able to call and return measure text. Because I don't think the guy who was writing this realized, unless I'm using it incorrectly, which is totally possible, but the way that I'm understanding run with C string is it doesn't have a return value. Like this is effectively a void function. So it's not returning anything. What's happening over here is that this whole block right here is actually a function being passed into run with C string. So this is like an anonymous function that's wrapping around measure text, right? So run with C string here. Like we need this to return an integer. We need this to return the results of actually calling measure text. At the moment, it's not returning anything. I have an idea. Better yet, how about that shit? How about that shit? How about that shit? How about that shit? How about that shit, motherfucker? Yeah. What you gotta say now, bitch? Try to tell me you ain't gonna compile now? Son of a fucking bitch. I forgot the semicolon. Oh shit. It fucking built. Um, let's see, wait. Let me let me fix where's the fucking game window at? There we go. Bright as fuck on camera, but it ain't shit in here. All right, we fixed that. That was a big deal. Now we can actually get back to what we were doing over here. So it's bitching that we're still not. Wait. So we just updated it here, but I don't know that like it's going to respect the fact that I made a change down at this level because this is actually imported from a cargo. So like I would have to like to do it properly, we would really want the library that we're using to be updated. I don't even know that that's the correct. I mean that is the version I grabbed from the blog post, but I don't know that there's not like a more updated version. Oh, it's all good. Okay, okay, we're good. So it respected that change. So one of the problems there is that like if I ever wiped out my cargo folder or wanted to start from scratch, um, I would have to remember to make that change again. Hmm. All right, first of all, font size is already an I32, so we shouldn't have to specify that a second time anyway. Oh, it actually wants use size. Okay. This seems old. This seems like an old error. Like the LSP, I think, is operating off of the old definition. There we go. Yeah. Fucking yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So this whole setup is kind of like less than desirable. Like navigating the Raylib way of doing things in this environment is very interesting because I'm seeing where the actual hangups with regards to like memory safety are occurring, and it's usually any function that has a string passed to it. But we're gonna have to deal with that for right now. That's fine. We should leave some of that in. Just as a reference. Well, what's the next thing that I would do? Building this in, a language that I actually do know. Uh, well, at some point during the loading process, we're gonna need to load textures. Need to and actually is we're probably gonna have to pass or like do load texture in similar fashion to what we just did. So channel keyboard. let's figure this out. So like when the game initializes here, like as an example, we call init window, which is one of those custom exported functions. Right here. Run with C string. So like I could imagine doing something like this. Keep in mind, I have no idea what I'm doing. Public function load texture. Um, so the whole basis of this, right, is like let's see. In Raylib load texture. Constant chart. Yeah, all we have to do is pass the file name. Okay, so we can just declare it without assigning anything. Um, so it should be that easy. Now we have another problem. A little bit easier to deal with though. Say I wanted to have like an image folder or like, for assets, right? Just as a super simple example. So we copied the human idle animation or like sprite sheet from the original Project RPG folder over here into the new one. Now, in order for us to like have a thing to refer to, um, like we're gonna need to have like a place to track the graphics and without making things too like over more complicated than they already are. There's like two phases to this. One is to like get at least just like one texture loaded up, and then after that it's to like get an array of them, or not necessarily an array but like some indexable structure where we can very quickly access individual textures. We actually don't need rectangle anymore, so we can get rid of this. We don't have speed anymore. We'll go and hold on to mouse position though. We have to update game/state since we no longer have rectangle or speed. Oh, it's still bitching. Uh-oh. Oh, we forgot to define the return type on the custom load texture. Um, oh, whoops. We forgot the semicolon here. Um, oh, it's not text. File name. What? That's fine. Fuck, really? All right. I don't like that. Hmm. I need like a way to have like an empty texture. Okay, it likes that. We're good. We're cooking. Okay, there we go. That's what's up. All right, so load texture. It's called up here. That's where we want it to be anyway. Still complaining about that? What? Okay, no, it's good. Um, this part's gonna be tricky because I don't know exactly what the path is gonna be. Like, I feel like when the program runs, it's gonna be relative to where the binary is. So I'm gonna have to like relative reference the texture by doing like dot dot slash, but I also don't know exactly how many levels I'm gonna have to do here. So let's find out. No, target. Wait. Oh shit. No. Target debug. Target debug build. Um. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's only two up. Oh, but this is relative to the current folder, not where it's going to be. So Oh yeah, we haven't defined that field yet. So over in state again, I have to say public tx of type texture. This needs to have a comma. Hmm. Yeah. Doing our thingy here. Okay, it says it's okay. Okay, we're good there. So if we're good there, we should be able to draw the texture somehow, right? So okay, this takes texture, rectangle, rectangle, vector, rotation, and color. So the texture is located at state dot tx. And we have a rectangle and another rectangle. Um, we're just gonna make it fit the whole screen. Fuck it. Actually, not window, but target width. Target height. Um, And I just realized that I was fucking talking to myself with the fucking thing on mute. Nice. Damn it. All right, well, I will repeat what I just said for you. Learned a lot here. You know, we can't force things to happen any faster than they're already happening. As much as I would like to keep pressing on, I think it's about time for me to digest, let this kind of soak into my brain a little bit, take in what I've learned today, and you know, maybe boot up some Skyrim here in a few. But I've learned some pretty basic like Rust debugging type shit. It's going to be a bit of work to get things back to where they were. But I'm gonna enjoy the process. I haven't banged my head against the keyboard this much in a long time. You know, working in languages like C++, C, Python, I'm really unencumbered, and I'm able to like get things like whipped up and rolling faster. But this is really making me consider the very specific cases where we don't want stuff to break. So what's the next thing here, right? Like with each individual texture, remember that there's contexts, which are the rows, and then the frame count, which is the columns. Um, so like we're gonna need some sort of wrapper around the texture struct itself that contains this information when we actually load a texture. So that way, like when we create the sprite that points to that texture, um, or rather, like has a reference to it, we'll be able to know all of that information and just copy it so that the sprite will be able to make use of it. In addition to that, we also need to have some sort of array or a map that allows us to load a texture using that wrapper and then place it somewhere in that big data structure in a way where we can quickly reference it. But once we have the ability to load textures like that, um, that's kind of like a major step. And actually getting the sprite animation and stuff working too will be a major step. That doesn't even include the actual logic of the game. You know, that doesn't include the structure of the dungeon floor or the actual generations of the dungeons or the items or the menu handling or any of that kind of stuff. And as I build this out, I want to be very careful to like separate things up as much as possible to keep things clean because simplicity is going to matter more than ever now because Rust already makes things, you know, a little bit complicated. But I'm willing to take the challenge. This is totally self imposed. Nobody is making me do this. I swear to God, I'm choosing to learn some Rust. So I hope y'all have enjoyed watching me flounder here. Let's check in what I've got. All right. I hope everyone's enjoyed today. If you fuck with what I'm doing, do me a favor and like the stream, whatever platform you happen to be on. Do me another favor. Follow or subscribe, whichever fucking button it is for you. Click that shit. And lastly, keep it real and take it easy. Dark Mage out.